What race of men offers the most support? What race of men offers the most support as a father, as a husband, in a relationship? Let's just say that in general. And I'm honest, my first gut reaction is that I would discover that white men, followed by Asian, followed by Latino, and then black men. And my brothers, don't take it as an insult, I'm being honest. That is what my expectation was. Well, what I discovered is that the CDC conducted a research study on the same question. And guess who came in first? Hi, boomers. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Midlife Priceless. And today is Tuesday, and I'm finally getting off the phone. Let me tell you, I have been on the phone all morning. I heard from the step-in community. The word is out that I'm leaving, I'm moving. I'll tell you about that later. Actually, I can tell you about it now. So what I'm going to be doing is a series of videos on my journey moving from Houston to Tallahassee. It should be fun. I do have a travel companion who's got ideas about content, so it should be fun. So look forward to shorts and long form videos. I'm going to be doing both. And it's a 14-hour drive. 14 as in after 13, before 15 hours to get there. So there will be a stopover in Biloxi, Mississippi. I've never been to Mississippi. There is a casino and resort there with a nice picturesque area where they have games and, of course, the casino. Not a big gambler, although I will put $20 into a slots machine. I just like the lights, you know, when you pull it. And then from there, the next day into Tallahassee, and we will see. That house that I'm moving into is also going to be a journey all by itself. So it should be fun. I wanted to start off this video to say that the intro to this book review, I said that I wanted to review this book because a very dear friend and loved one has said that she doesn't want to date black men anymore. And I want her to change her mind, not based on character, but just on the race. That's the part that I think disturbed me the most. I said that she simply decided, and I shouldn't have said that. She did not make a flip decision. It was not an emotional decision. It was a results-oriented decision. So I have to dial it back, eat crow, and love you. She and I have already talked about it. I'll let her know I'll be saying this. So that's been on my mind to get that out. I think the best way to start is to talk about how this book is structured. To begin with, I've already said that the book is written through the lens of the Christian experience in interracial relationships. The book title again is Just Don't Marry One: Interracial Dating, Marriage, and Parenting. If you see me looking down a lot, it's because I'm looking at the book. It's right here in front of me, and I made my notes. So I want to make sure that I don't get ahead of myself or skip anything. I have a tendency to do that. Today, I want to offer some general comments to introduce the whole idea of what this question of interracial marriage and relationship is all about. Why is it a topic? Why is it important? I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. I should say that right at the outset. I really, really want all of my friends and family, because we have mixed marriages in my family as well. This is not an indictment. It is not a complaint. It is not meant to start an argument or sow discord. It's really meant to open a conversation and open the mind, even if you decide you don't like where it's going and go back to your previous perspective, which doesn't mean it's a bad one. But let's be open to conversation. If that's fair, then I'll continue. Once I finish with the general comments, hopefully my long form won't be too long. I also want to go to my laptop and show you some of the things that I discovered when I did the research about interracial couples. One of the questions that I asked is, what race of men offers the most support? What race of men offers the most support as a father, as a husband, in a relationship? Let's just say that in general. And I'm honest, my first gut reaction is that I would discover that white men, followed by Asian, followed by Latino, and then black men. And my brothers, don't take it as an insult. I'm being honest. That is what my expectation was. Well, what I discovered is that the CDC conducted a research study on the same question. And guess who came in first? And I'll give you 1 second to think about that. By now, you've already formed your opinion just when I asked the question. So let's, you be honest. But black men rated number 1. They are the most supportive husbands and fathers. The CDC. Black men really do get a hard way to go. Thirdly, I will prepare us for the subsequent video after this, because then I'm really going to get down into the weeds. So let's get started. The biblical reference, as I said, is to the Christian Bible. And they are using the King James Version. Okay. The contents of the book comes in 3 parts. Section 1 is Foundations for Christian Leaders, and the writings here are going to be directed toward Christian leadership, counseling, that type of thing. It occurs to me, or I discovered, I should say, that this book isn't written just by 2 authors. It's got several authors, and they all contributed. So it's almost like an anthology of sorts to discuss the topic. Section 2 is support for interracial couples. Try that again. Support for interracial couples and I cannot talk today. Support for interracial couples and multiracial families. That's part 2. And section 3 is on parenting issues. What came to mind about parenting for me, and I'm from a blended family, is how do you, as an interracial blended family, come to terms with the different looks? Especially if children arrived after the interracial union, as opposed to before, when maybe it was by the same race or within the same race. So there's a good conversation point there. The book is written with scholarship through real life human experiences and stories. And what's interesting now is the racial divide in the United States, simply because the election revealed a truth, and I don't know that we were ready for that curtain to be pulled back. We wanted it pulled back. Let me correct that. I think we wanted it pulled back, but we weren't ready for what we saw when the big reveal. It wasn't the celebration that a lot of people anticipated, but the truth was revealed. As they say, the truth has a way of rising to the top every time. Reading directly from the book, and I quote, "Even our nation's presidents have wittingly or unwittingly joined the discussion. And keep in mind, the copyright for this book is 2002. So 22 years ago they're saying this, and here we are. And yes, it is still a conversation. I don't know that there was a time in American history when race wasn't a conversation. Race, color, creed, all that, gender. We just can't get straight. I was watching a video, I think it was from 1948, I want to say, with Harry S. Truman's speech. And he is talking about the influence the Republican Party has had on our views, on our public policy. And it resonates with you as you're listening that he could make that same speech today and nothing has changed. How is it that we're not improving? So, moving on, I'm going to read from the book again, and I quote, "In whatever role you find yourself as it relates to interracial couples and families, Just Don't Marry One has a word for you. If you are in an interracial marriage or contemplating dating someone of a different race, if you are the parent of a child whose race differs from yours, if you provide support for others in such situations as a pastor, counselor, professor, grandparent, or friend, this book is for you. The topics included cover the gambit: self-esteem, stereotypes, history, culture, the Bible, identity, racism, religion, and the like. While there are no easy answers, this book offers much wisdom." In the acknowledgement section, there is a whole conversation. It's only about 3/4 of a page, really, but the authors apparently held a workshop on the 10 top myths about interracial marriage. And it got me to thinking, where are the myths coming from? Where are we getting our impressions? And because I'm a media person, it's what I studied in college, I realized that whether it's drama, comedy, horror, or I always say biopics. Is it biopics or is it biopics? I've got to look that up. Anyway, cinema and the big screen has given us quite a dose. And I didn't realize how big of a dose until I started listing and looking into what movies were made that kind of either centered or had it as a subplot about an interracial relationship. Naturally, the first one that came to mind for me, because I'm from Virginia, is a movie called Loving, and that was in 2016 about the interracial couple having to stand up to the legal system about their interracial marriage. So that's one. Another one, I didn't see this one, Something New, 2006, A Bronx Tale in 1993. Oh my God, Robert De Niro. I just love that movie. It is so good. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It really, really is a story about people. It's a story about people. The interracial relationship that blossoms in that movie is actually a subplot, but it's a great movie. The Bodyguard, to me, it's a subplot. I really didn't, it's on the list, 1992, but I don't regard that as a movie about an interracial relationship. It demonstrated the potential start of one. Yeah, moving on. We miss our girl. Belle in 2013. I don't know that one. Now, who doesn't know this movie? Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? That was in 1967. Wonderful, wonderful movie, and a lot of truths are spoken in that movie. The Joy Luck Club, 1993. Liberty Heights in 99. I should say 1999. You never know how long this video might be out in cyberspace. Jungle Fever, remember that one? Spike Lee joint? Oh, what was that? That is when I just fell in love with all the characters, and Samuel L. Jackson. Who knew that he would be where he is today? Wonderful actor. Bringing Down the House. Well, before I get into Bringing Down the House, Get Out. Remember that? The horror flick. If you haven't seen that, then you have really done yourself a disservice. And I have a policy with my movies. If I recommend a movie to you, don't let me catch you researching the plot and looking at trailers. Just watch it and let the story reveal itself to you. Then you can go back and watch the whatever you want to watch and the reviews and all that. But I like to see how I feel. I can't engage and invest in the character if I'm already told what to think. So I never watch trailers, and I don't listen to people. You never know what movie is going to appeal to you. Finally, Queen Latifah and Bringing Down the House. There is a subplot. Steve Martin is in it, and you know if Steve Martin is in it, you get your Kleenex, because you are going to laugh so hard that you will cry. And in this movie, she plays the role of a young lady named Sherelyn. And Steve Martin's character has a friend and associate that is named Howie. And Howie falls head over heels for her. And of course, there's some sort of breakup and all the drama. And he tells Steve Martin to tell Queen Latifah's character something to make her know that he's so sorry. And he says to tell her that the cool points out the window and that she got him all caught up in the game. It's the cutest, really. But I say that to say, and I use those examples because I think we really do have to loosen up on this race issue. It's not going to get any better by being quiet or not addressing it or making it a taboo subject. It just cannot continue. We have to face the fact we are human beings, and we do recognize differences in one another, and we're going to have to navigate those perilous waters, like it or don't. I will end this part of the video. I told you I would do comments, so I'll end my comments with this. It is the wedding day poem, apparently, that the authors, Sherelyn Yancey and George Yancey, recited at their wedding. And it says, "Our wedding day poem" at the top of the page, so that is the title. Doesn't have a formal title other than that. And apparently she is saying this to him and him to her. So it starts off with him speaking. And he says, on the outside, let me stop. All right, so let me show you the page. See how that's written there? It's sort of indented. I'm gonna read what he said to her and then read what she said to him separately, even though they spoke back and forth to one another. Does that make sense? And then you get his complete thought and her complete thought. If you want to see it as it's written, then buy the book, honey. All right, so I'll read his part first. On the outside, I am black, I am male, yet on the inside, created from the same clay, I say, at long last. Bone of my bone, my wife, my sweetheart, I leave my family, we are now a couple. Oneness in calling, sojourners in following. Let us return to the garden. Let us celebrate the love. That was George's part. So now for Sherelyn's part. And she wrote this, by the way. I have a little problem with that, but it's another story for another time. All right, she wrote, We look so different. I am white. I am female. We seem so similar. The Lord God formed us. I say, finally I have found. Soul of my soul, my husband, my friend, you cleave to me, and still individuals united in purpose. Our Lord Jesus Christ, let us dance in the sun that has joined us as one. What do you think of that? Would you write your own vows? What would you say? I mean, and whose job is it to write this thing? I don't want to write vows. If you know me, I'm cantankerous. You know, I just realized you can see all the crap on my desk. Anyway, I try to keep a clean look going. And I guess with my shoulder right here, I never realized that it was sitting over there. Those are my notes about learning how to play diplomacy, a board game. I posted a 30-second short on it. I have no idea what's going on. I understand the point, but you need, what did they say, at least 4 to 7 players or something like that. I am solo. All right, so let's go on and see what I found out in my research. See you in a minute. I can't stand this mess, so we're gonna move it, okay? So I just finished talking to you about the overview of the book, you know, and seeing really what the authors have put together and what they're trying to approach in terms of conversation about interracial marriages, relationships, parenting, all the good things. I said I would move straight into the laptop, but I wanted to stop because, and take a little segue here, because in the first intro video, I posed some thought questions and I didn't answer them. I answered them for myself, but I didn't answer them to you. My chair's squeaking. I'm just me. I'm sorry. I'm Miss Margaret. That's how it is today. I'm not going to go looking for WD-40 just so I can make a video and have a conversation with you. Moving on. I had posed some questions, some thought questions in the initial video, as I said, and I won't replay. Well, I guess here it is. Here's the little segment. It's like 20 seconds. The way that this book review, book response is going to begin is with me going through some research. The things that I have kind of looked into to lay the groundwork for what this book is probably, I'm expecting, going to talk about. I don't do spoilers. I don't read other people's reviews. This is my response to what I read based on my experience. So that's the way I'm going to go about that. What I would like for you to do is, if you're going to follow this series, please make a point of having a little notepad handy, because there are some thought questions and concepts. And I hope that you email your comments if you are not comfortable putting in the comment section below each video. The first question is, how do you see other races and cultures? I have to admit that I am going to have a bias. I've lived overseas for a very long time, starting with childhood, going back for grad school, going back for a job, going back for marriage, going back for a lot of things. So I have a view of culture and race that's going to be a bit skewed due to exposure. I also speak another language. I used to speak 2 other languages, but the other one has faded with time, and they were both rudimentary, so don't be too impressed by that. It was survival skills at work. But to the point of the question, how do I view race? I want to say that I'm fair enough to judge people and not walk into it with a preconceived notion about their race. What I think I understand from the outside is not always what it is once I get inside. and I get immersed in something. I think it's unfair for people to treat me any differently than that. But I realize that it's a universal truth. People have heard something or experienced something to a single individual, and they blame it on or hold the entire race accountable. I have dated outside my race before. I have dated an Indian man. I have had a relationship with a white man. I have, I've dated a Latino man. And when I say date, long enough to know that it wasn't going to work. Not that they weren't good people, they were all good people, but the overwhelming majority of relationships that I've been the most comfortable with were inside my own race. Living in Africa, living in Europe, living in the West Indies, you get quite a different impression of people when they're outside of their homeland. That's another piece to it. What Chinese people do in China is going to be different than what Chinese people do in Mexico, if you get my meaning. The support isn't there for cultural values and cultural practices in many situations. What comes to mind randomly is a Chinese man who is in the dance community in Cuba, and he was putting it down like nobody's business. It's a wonderful video. But anyway, back to the point. Culture I see as something people do and something people use in the wrong way. So there's a place that I lived. I don't want to say the name of the place because I'm still a member of the community and I don't want them to have hard feelings about what I'm about to say. But there's a saying that, oh, that's how it is here. This is fill in the blank. And I always wondered about that, because it's not the place that's doing it, it's you doing it. And anytime you are outside of the cultural norm, you want to say, oh, this is fill in the blank. And then that's the reason for it. So that's how I view, race and culture. I appreciate other races. I appreciate other cultures. But as it is, you're a product of your own environment. So I'm more comfortable with my own. Simple point of fact. I know when it's a joke and when not to read into it or make something of a nothing. Innocent questions, being in a position where I have to now filter whether or not this person is trying to drive a point or they're genuinely curious. I have friends that are white. I have friends that are Black, of course. I have Asian friends. I have Indian friends. I have European friends. I have people from all over the world as friends. I also have people from different cultures, whether they're social cultures, lifestyle choice that is, or a culture that is simply not my own. Religion comes to mind. I have Muslim friends, I have Christian friends, I have friends who are Buddhists. Everybody does what they want to do and what their conscience calls them to do. So that's my view. The second question, thought question, is what's my first thought when I see an interracial couple? The first thing I think is, I wonder what brought them together. And then I don't want to say, well, I'm not judgmental, but I'm trying to figure out visually the optics. What do I see that they might have in common? Is it that they seem to share a sense of humor? Is it religion? Is it where they've lived? Is that how they came together? And I have an opinion about that. What is it that made them come together? When I see the children, I look to see, and I swear, I'm just being honest with you. I know somebody's going to comment that I shouldn't think this way, but I'm a human being, and that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So when I see the children, I'm watching them to understand their takeaway, and it tells me who has more influence over the children. Which race, which culture, which whatever, right? So that's just a basic answer. How do you perceive traditional gender roles in your own race? How do I perceive gender roles in the Black community? I think that women have been the backbone of 90% of the Black experience. I'm not saying that men have only shouldered 10%. I'm just saying they have been the backbone of many, 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 many socioeconomic struggles and values developed over time. I think we are responsible in some way, shape, or form for what we see happening in our communities. We're raising these boys and girls. And there's a saying in the Black community that we love the boys and raise the girls. And I cannot say that's not true. To some extent, I think we intend to nurture and care, but sometimes we go overboard and we're just not willing to apply a narrower definition of what's reasonable and tolerable, because these are the same boys and girls that have to go out into the world. And when the world is not coddling them or tolerating and having the patience that the child is learning at home, we've done them something of a disservice. It doesn't mean, in my mind, that you don't care or that you need to be hard-nosed or draw solid lines, like that. It's not a sternness that I think we need to apply, but a reality that we need to apply. I think in my own home, in my personal life, in my family core, fathers were nothing but strong. I'm looking at my father, his brothers, cousins, all of the men. were real men, like man's men. They didn't even call a repairman. They just didn't. They did it themselves, or they called cousin such and such. And that is what I saw coming in and out of our home, was that male pride and responsibility for one's family. Gender roles for women. I always try to explain to some of my friends using an example from a cookout we had at our home one year. And this is when, and I'm from the South, so if you don't eat that swine, then just try to appreciate the story. We cooked a pig in the ground, the family did, but it was the men's job to prepare to cook that pig in the ground and stay up all night guarding it. We're out in the country, so anything can come and drag it off, to protect it, keep it from burning, whatever they were doing out there. But it's when the men stayed out all night and they bonded till the wee hours of the morning. The women, on the other hand, were inside preparing side dishes and building their sisterhood inside the house. We were taking drinks out to them, checking on them through the night. But by morning, the men were allowed to rest, and the women took over. We're setting tables and making it nice, and one by one, the men would come creeping out and rejoin the party, and it was quite a family affair. That is my understanding of gender roles, that to each his own, and you have to play your part, and don't let them down. And that's for men or for women. Don't let each other down. That's the way I saw gender roles in my experience. And finally, the last question: do you understand your privilege? This is a great question to lead into the next segment on the research portion that I did. When I say, or when the question asks, do you understand your privilege? If you're like most of America, you say, oh, you mean white privilege? Well, CNN had an article out a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, about the timing, that there is such a thing as black privilege, claiming by interviews and people who commented that black privilege would be defined as the freedom to talk about your race as a set aside, as something to be shed light upon, for lack of a better term. I can't think of it right now, what I really want to say. But this whole idea about black privilege, and how if a white person says they want to talk about the history, as an example, of the white church, that it's going to be seen through a certain lens and it's not going to be received well. That's probably true. But if we say we want to talk about the history of the black church, nobody says anything. It's the black privilege at work. White privilege, on the other hand, is an entirely different assumption. It is the assumption that not only, you can't really talk about it, but you can enforce it. And that is the piece, I think, that other groups see as white privilege. It's deeper than that. I'm truly skimming the surface on that intentionally, because I don't want to stray too far from the point of the book review, which is supposed to be about interracial relationships, and not try to dissect or navigate the perilous waters of race relations in America today. That's a whole different subject. So anyway, those are my thoughts. And there are some other thought questions that came up, but I don't want to delve into them too deeply before I make headway into the book. I think the other stories that I want to add, or the other experiences that I want to share with you, I can talk about them as they occur in our reading. All right, so let's get into the research, and then we will close it out, and I will see you later. And I know, and I apologize, it's a very long video, but listen to it on your way to work. Like and subscribe. All the good stuff. See you in a second. Let me go set up this laptop. Be right back. Thanks. Well, as you can see, we've moved into a different time of day. If you can look at the lighting in here, it's dark because I'm burning the midnight oil. I've made this lovely presentation showing you some links and so forth and so on. And I lost the footage. So instead, here's the compromise. I put all of the links to the research I had done in the description below. You can click on those. There's even a PDF of the CDC report, the health department folks that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to promise to reflect on the research going forward. But for now, you have just about everything. It's probably for the best because we're now moving into a 40-minute piece. And I promised myself it would be only 20 minutes, and it's already twice that. So let's call it a night. I hope you enjoyed the talk so far. And I'm going to end with a video for laughs. Just keeping it light. As I said, we have to be approachable if we're going to survive this thing called life with interracial relationships on deck. Fair enough? I'll say bye for now. Thanks for joining me.
So you must be the new hire, Miss Zhang.
Oh, did I write it in Chinese?
No, it's in English, but it's Zhang.
You don't speak English?
I do, but it's just hard to pronounce.
Do you need help sounding it out?
Help sounding? No, I'm American.
Okay.
Zhang.
You know what? You can just call me Sharon.
Sharon?
Yeah, good job.
No. You went from this name to Sharon? But that's not your real name.
Well, if you call me Sharon, I will answer.
That's not how it works.
Isn't that how names work?
No, Sharon?
Yes?
No, you can't be Sharon. We have 2 other Sharons in this office.
Then I will be Ellen.
There's already an Ellen too.
Helen?
Taken.
Jocelyn?
Taken.
Michelle?
Taken.
Shaniqua?
Doesn't really fit you.
You don't know me?
You're right.
Okay, how about Natalie?
No, that's my mom's name.
You call your mom Natalie?
Yes, in fact I do.
You don't call your mom or mommy?
No, I do not.
Great, then I will be mommy.
No, you are Okay, you know what, Mommy?